let's get into the playlist. You have been playing a little game called Dying Light 2. Stay Human for quite some time, and your official review is on the site, on the YouTube page right now. Let's dive in.
Is it Stay Human?
Stay woke, you know.
Oh, I was thinking Become Human, which is a different game.
That is, yeah.
Apologies. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Reiner, let's get into it. You were very high game. Do you want to talk about why that is?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. And I put, 50, 60, 70 hours. I don't know what my tally was. I think after the first weekend, I was at like 24 hours or whatever. I just couldn't put it down. And Dying Light 1 was fantastic and well supported over the years. At its core, it's a apocalyptic zombie survival game, right? Where you and maybe 3 of your friends, if you have a party, are working together to gain power within these zombie infested cities. And one of the cool things that they do, you got a lot of hacking and slashing, everything you'd expect from a zombie experience. You don't want to get bit, but they added parkour into it. And that's what kind of made this game unique, right? Is you're scurrying along rooftops, along walls, flipping off poles. It has all those elements of allowing you to escape. And they really play that up, especially at night. And you're escaping swarms of zombies. And it's a sprint to the safe house, right? Like that's the goal. Dying Light 2 amps that up tenfold. And maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but the scale of both the environment and the tools that you have at your disposal are amplified big time, like just incredibly so. And it's so rewarding for the player in that throughout this whole game, from start to finish, you feel like you are gaining new things. Every new area you reach brings some kind of new toys to play with or ways to move throughout the environment or fend off these zombies. And the really interesting thing that they did with this one is they had that great backdrop, these zombies, this formula that was there. And now they've added a human element to it. So the name kind of plays off it a little bit, but they really play it up in that humanity is probably the worst enemy you're going to face here, right? Like they're the ones that could tear themselves down. They have the technology and the way to survive this apocalypse now. They have these bracelets that they wear that can keep them from turning after they get bit by a zombie. But they might be their own worst enemies in terms of politics, greed, lust. You know, they could tear themselves down, and you're a part of that. You come in as kind of a distant voice or this guest to the city, and you have a unique, set of eyes into this zombie apocalypse and how humanity is tearing itself down.
Interesting. Okay, so I know. Did you enjoy the story? Did you feel engaged?
I did. Yeah,
with
I
it?
saw a lot of people being like, "Oh, the story is poo-poo," but I was like, boy, I really thought it was beautifully done. How they sew in flashbacks, and it's a very personal journey for your character Aiden, who has some memories of some things maybe happening in this new city he's traveling to. Maybe it isn't so new after all, and that is sewn all the way through the game. And I like the characters I met. They're all very colorful, well written. There's a ton of dialogue in this game. And a lot of choice. So you are kind of like Judge Dredd, right? Like, or I guess more in the game universe, Commander Shepard, where they're relying on you. You have this perspective of, and this kind of prowess of being the problem solver. And so there will be things that come up where it's do or die situations, or who lives, who dies, who gets the resources, which factions are going to be the ones that come out on top. And sometimes that's for your personal gain, where siding with one faction might open up a whole new traversal system or maybe weapons, but you have to pick. You can't be like, hey, I'm just going to go with what the story's telling me. You kind of start thinking like, I'm going to be kind of selfish here because I want this, and this is going to help me in the short term. I'll get back to this other side later. I think it's brilliantly done. I loved it.
Okay.
There were a lot of moments that were my favorite moments of the game that Blake didn't like. I've kind of been talking with Blake and Reiner throughout the review process, And some of my favorite moments, Blake didn't even see because he went down a different path. And it was like
Yeah.
a big moment that is still like the highlight of my experience, that he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, you didn't see
Yeah.
that part? He's like,
I was
no,
like,
yeah.
Stop texting me. I don't know what you're on about right now.
Yeah.
Blocking this number. Yeah.
Because he earlier in the branch, like he chose at a major decision to kind of side with the other faction than I did. And that for me was like, I was like, oh wow, like there really is like the choice really kind of branches out into totally different areas. It does kind of like funnel you back into like the same area in certain moments, but like when those branches get really wide and big, some of the encounters that you see are wildly different before it kind of brings you back to like the same kind of trunk, if we're going with that illustration.
And I would say, the side stories are just as important and well done in terms of scripting and flow and where they take you in environments than the main, critical path missions. There's one called Black Widow. I don't know if you guys did this one.
I didn't.
Where there's someone that's been poisoned and they think they know who did it, and they're trying to go track it down, and it becomes an investigation mission where you go to this lady's apartment and you start seeing things, and then you find this canister of pills. And I'll just kind of spoil this moment, but it's like they come to you like, she's gonna hang, unless you could prove she's innocent or whatever. What do you want to do? Do you want to test those pills and eat those pills, or do you want to let her die, basically? And that's the choice. I won't say what I did or what the outcome is, but like, you do the due diligence to find out what's going on there.
Yeah,
I just think it's fascinating. And just those little side stories add so much to the world and those characters, and really build up the society in an interesting way.
For sure. So would you say from your time then, because that was some of the big hullabaloo in the beginning, right? It was like 500 hours to do everything, right? Do you feel like those choices you made were impactful and interesting enough where you want to go back in and see the other side of it?
Some of them. There's, especially toward the end, I can't remember her name in the game, but Rosario Dawson's character.
Lawan.
She's fantastic, right? Absolutely fantastic. But there's these huge seismic choices that are there, and it's like, whoa. I wonder what that other one would do. They all sound awful or like very different. So yeah, I wanted to see those. There's, I would say maybe 10 or 15 of them. I felt that way. Other ones just seem like, oh, maybe that, who knows where that would go, but maybe it wouldn't matter so much. I don't know though. I don't think I'm going to go back and see those different scenarios. When you beat the game, it undoes some of those decisions and plops you back in the world so you can complete everything.
Okay. I thought you meant just totally did it. I was like, that's unsatisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a previous save state, just so you can keep playing, right? Like, so they can have big things happen and then also have you keep playing. It's not like retconning it or anything like that. It's just a pretty decent decision on how to get you back into it.
For sure. I do want to ask you, because you played on PlayStation or Xbox, correct?
Xbox Series X. Yep.
Okay. Some of the stuff I was seeing online was some people were having some buggy issues, right? And I think Blake had one of his own, and Alex too. Yeah. Was your experience pretty clean? Did you run into bugs yourself, like that kind of stuff?
I didn't have any crashes. The bugs, I would say, are very minimal compared to games of this ilk, like Skyrim or Fallout. I think this was a cleaner playthrough. I think it's a more beautiful game than those. I think the mechanics, traversal, combat flow better. I think it's just a better made game than those classics, right? Like, I love those games too, but I very much hold them in the same breath. It's very similar in terms of design and the experience you get from them. When I played on PC for a little bit of co-op, I ran into some bugs. Okay. And that was like a, 2 to 3 hour playthrough. But they were kind of strange things. Like, it'd be like, I can't hit down on my D-pad to turn on my flashlight, and then all of a sudden 30 seconds later it would let me, so it wasn't like detrimental to the game like Blake. who has a history of breaking things.
Yeah,
And
man, what the hell?
Hey, look,
gotta
I didn't make these games. I didn't put these bugs in there. That's all I'm saying.
These games would be infinitely worse if Blake made them. We can
Yeah,
assure
there'd
you
be
all,
more
yeah.
bugs.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the difference between a bull and a horse. We're already in trouble.
Well, there's neither in Dying Light 2.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there is. I don't know.
Yeah. So, do you want to like, without spoiling Blake, do you want to tell people what you ran into, or if I guess does it matter if it's going to be patched?
Well, I'll just say I hit a game-breaking bug in a level called Broadcast. I've been told there's a hot fix, a patch. I didn't go back. I haven't touched it since then. Probably will not, to be honest, if we want to get into my thoughts later on that. But just know that even if that one is fixed, there are some issues going on there. Maybe be diligent about having 1 or 2 extra saves as you're going about, because there are issues. And Reiner luckily didn't have issues with his game, which is great. But in talking to some other reviewers, I know they had some pretty severe issues as well. So if you're playing early, be mindful.
From what I've
of
gathered,
that.
it seems like Xbox is the cleanest. The cleanest as far as bugs go.
I don't
Blake
remember.
and I were both on PlayStation, and that one seems to be the worst.
Yeah,
for bugs.
I don't remember if I had any crashes, but there were definitely a lot of like annoying bugs, and I think I had to like, exit out of the game and load back in a couple times.
Okay.
But I don't remember any hard crashes.
I had a few, but
like a
they've
game-
since been patched.
It reminds me of playing Skyrim, right? Like there was people in the office when they were playing Skyrim. They had pretty clean playthroughs, but I was like, my dragons are flying backwards. Like it's really buggy, So I put that in my review, but my playthrough of this one was clean. And it's like most games early, there's that kind of minefield aspect of if you do one thing out of the ordinary or something that the testers didn't pick up, like Broadcast, I think it was. If you stopped playing that mission and then went back to it, that created a fail state for not being able to continue the game. Like just little things like that. Like these games are massive, right?
Oh,
and
I will say the
everybody's
majority of
mileage
the
is gonna be
bugs I played, I've gone back since they patched some of those, and it's a lot smoother.
Good.
Yeah.
Reiner, do you have any parting or final thoughts before I kick it over to Alex and Blake and ask them about their experience?
I would just say if you like those games like Skyrim, Fallout, these big open world, story driven, choice driven games, this is such a great power fantasy in the post-apocalyptic setting. It's about zombies, but at the same time, they get pushed back so much at times that it's really about these characters, humanity, these different factions. You're battling humans a lot. It's really well done. I didn't expect that to the degree that's there. And I loved it. I really did. And I know I'm one of the highest reviews on it, and that's okay. Everybody sees things differently, and I adored it, and I think other people will too.